LifeStories Live.
And this thing was happening around this tent where all this was going on. And I go, oh my word, this is unbelievable. And there's no way I could even think about doing something like that. And then I noticed with my walk from then on that it wasn't I that was doing anything. I just had to be there. And one of the secrets of this walk with the God and being part of what he wants to do to help all these people out here is you're better off not knowing anything. I call it dumbing down. You're better off just letting him do it. And so every time I put myself in a place where I had no abilities or controls, that's when it seemed to work really well. It was interesting. Other times, you try to, I'm going to be, God's going to use me to do something, right? Well, nothing. It's like you missed the nail completely. Anyway, so travel around all these different places all over the world. Business is going good. Things are happening. And there's I don't want to go on too long, but there's a time when you just try to do what's right, So I hear about Mexico, and we're in California, okay, and Mexico is a big country below us. So I asked one of the leaders of the fellowship. He was in Pete, forget his last name, but anyway, he was down in San Diego, and why don't you start something right there in Mexico with all these people? My goodness, I don't know, 80 million or something, And he said, no, you should go. You're thinking about it. You should go. I go, no, wait a minute. Come on. I'm a builder up here. I got time to get that detail involved in things. But the next thing you know, they sent me down there, and they're going to meet this guy in Querétaro. I can't speak Spanish, but Querétaro, just outside of Guadalajara, probably, I don't know, a couple hundred miles. So I meet the guy in the Guadalajara airport. Okay, so I talk about being planned, knowing what I'm doing. I show up at the airport, and it comes to my mind when I get off the plane is, I have no idea what this guy looks like. I can barely, is John something? And you get up into the airport, into the terminal, and there's 1,000 or 2,000 people there. So I'm standing there. I got no phone number. And this is before cell phones. So, you're really out of touch. So I'm standing there, and I kind of hang around a little bit thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then pretty soon the people disperse. And then there's a guy over there with a younger man. And I look at him, and he looks at me. I look at him, and I said, John? He says, yeah. So we jump in his truck, and we head for this town of Querétaro. That's the start of the missionary work in Mexico. And the concept was to get men together to give their story, and it public events, either breakfast, lunch, or dinner, mostly dinner. And so he started introducing me to people, and little by little, with some help from some boys from Texas, we had 33 of these groups meeting across Mexico. And I was on this board. This is the funny part. So I'm on this board of directors, if you will. Okay. I can't speak Spanish. I hadn't learned. I'd never been able to. Anyway, I'm on this board of directors of this group of guys. And I mean, it was great. Things were going fine. We finally told it over to a guy who could speak Spanish. But anyway, it was amazing, again, what God can do when you have no idea what to do. You just put yourself in there, and you're a vessel. You're just an empty vessel. And God opens your mouth, moves through you, does whatever he wants to do. And which is mostly introduce himself to people and allow them to let him come in their heart. I mean, that's the game plan, right? This is how Jesus operates. It's how God operates through Jesus. And it's not fiction. It's not I told you so, join this club, join this church. This is you and Jesus together, personal, in the same better relationship than you could ever have with your wife or your girlfriend or your another person. It's not like that. This is real. This is giving up control. You know, there's a million stories of places I've been and done, and I'm a little bit older now. I was 33 when I started, and I consider that my birthday. So I may be 80, but I really should take 33 years off of that, because when I was born again when I was 33. That's where I should start counting from. Okay, that's why I got a little more juice in me than a normal 80-year-old person. Anyway, one day, my good friend Drew Greenwood, he's beaten me to heaven. He beat me in golf all the time. Now he beat me to heaven. From Scotland, he calls me up and says, "Hey, how about going to Siberia with the guy and sharing your testimony? They want to hear from a successful businessman, American successful businessman." I'm thinking, huh? Right? I'm just hanging on to everything, and things are happening. You know, I don't see myself as this premier executive kind of guy. Anyway, so they hooked me up with John Watt, who's listening here with us somewhere in this picture. He was a Brit, lived where did he live? Southeast out of London, I think. Anyway, he was my interpreter. I didn't realize we needed another one, so we went off to Siberia. And first thing that happened was my computer. I busted it on the air flight. I mean, you know, kind of a mixed up little deal. Anyway, flying over from California to London to meet John, I'm thinking on a plane, I'm saying, what am I doing here? What am I going to be talking about these people? I can't understand them. They can't understand me. What am I going to do? And he gave me what I call, they're my three successes, or the three S's to success. This is a personal thing, not necessarily for you, but the story is for you, wherever you're at. I don't care whether you know Jesus, whether you're having struggles, whether you need some prayer or whatever. These have worked for me, and I guarantee they'll work for you. So I share these three S's in this. The first, I don't know, it's the first or second meeting, John. I can't remember where we went, but we ended up in a nightclub. It was not actively at that time. They were using it as a facility to have a meeting. And there was probably, I don't know, 30, 40 people, couples, mostly all couples, young people, well-dressed. Oh my goodness, these were sharp-looking folks. The last time I'd been in Russia was 89. This was, I can't remember when this was, in the 80s or 90s, John. I can't remember. Anyway, the big deal was at that time was how to how to get capital, how to get rich, how to grow in that way, not spiritually. So I tell my story of how God touched me, and as I go along, here's the points that I'm making. The first S, that if you want to be successful, was you need to surrender. Oh, surrender. I could see these people's faces. They're going, this guy's upside down. No, you want to be big and bold. No, surrender. And I talked about accepting Christ, letting Christ surrender to his will in my life and becoming a slave for him, a vessel for him. Okay. So that took a little bit, and they're looking at me, and they're kind of wondering why they're still in this little group meeting, And I don't even think we had a meal there, John. I can't remember, but it was really intense. And then I said the second S is called submission. Oh, submit. I'm in charge. I'm I want to be somebody, This was kind of the attitude coming up in that lifestyle. And I'm going, no, you got to submit. And so they're listening, but I feel like they're leaving me. If you ever talk to somebody and you're kind of thinking, okay, I don't think they're following me. I don't think they get this. And then the final one was I called servanthood. You need to serve people. Oh my goodness. So all these three things are just the opposite of what the human mind says about success. And then I explained, hey, this is how God works. And this is how you can be really successful. So at the end of the meeting, I said, okay, here's the deal. And John, I said, how many of you would like to follow me in this steps? How many of you? And all of a sudden, all these hands went up. And I said, John, now you got to interpret this right. you got to get this story right here. They're not quite, I don't think it's too much, And he did it again, and it all came up again. And it was I was overwhelmed what God could do through a carpenter that really has not very knowledgeable, not very, you see the books behind me, I'm trying to learn, not very knowledgeable. And what he can do through somebody who just says, okay, God, you're it, you do it. And the interfacing with these folks after was just a delight, And later on or before, I can't remember, Alan, the timing, because there's so many trips and so many things. The other trip was when we went into Ukraine. That was kind of a special time. I think that was earlier. And I went in with Alan. I was there about a week and a half or so, something like that. And we went into Kiev, and then we took a train somewhere south, and then we took a car. The guy met us at a train station. I won't talk about the train trip because it was pretty rough. And anyway, for me, I mean, I'm sure for a lot of folks it wasn't, but it was for me. Anyway, we get in this car, and the cars they didn't clean up the back seat, and we're in the back seat, and it's full of stuff, and the spring's coming up, and all of a sudden I'm goosed, and it's like, oh my God, it's bouncing, and it's not going very fast. It's barely got a what do they call that when you have something that keeps the car from going too fast, a governor. And I'm going, oh my God, this is terrible. So I remember Alan, somebody calls ahead, and they send a car up from where we were going to be to pick us up, to take us the rest of the way. It was that slow. Anyway, the meeting, though, this is the part that's so encouraging, and I'm praying it's that way today. There were people, we were late. We were probably an hour late. And we get there, and outside the little restaurant, people are standing around anxious to hear what's going to happen. I mean, they weren't going anywhere. And what I found out, well, okay, so we get in and we have the meal, and And Alan's a speaker, does a great job. I mean, I love being around that guy. God really uses him. And so I'm kind of there, kind of checking it out. I'm not really the guy. I'm just learning here and getting some good vibes. Anyway, so he's got a whole line of people coming up to him, and here's some gal, and I looked around. There was quite a few women that had drugged their men there. They had actually drugged them there. They couldn't. And this gal brought her husband up to me, and he was drunk. I mean, he could barely stand up, and he didn't have any interest in being there. But she says, you need to pray for him through an interpreter, right? Okay. So I prayed. And this guy went down, and I don't know if some of you've been in the churches and all that, and they have people that grab people to help them as they go down so they don't get hurt and all that stuff. This guy hit the deck like a ton of bricks. Bang. He's out. And she's going, oh, happy. He looked down at him, and the guy gets up, and he's not drunk anymore. He's looking pretty good. And I'm just a bystander in this deal. So I'm telling you, when you come, get involved with what God's doing.
Life Stories Live. Life Stories.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm a carpenter. I know how to build. This is good. And then, we can be more flexible about doing things and going things because we'll be a little more able to decide when we can do things like that. Oh, okay, it all sounds great. So at the first time we started out with a partner, a Christian guy, an Italian guy, and we started this little business. What was interesting, the key word is business. I was a builder. I had no clue what a business was about. I was used to getting a check on Friday, all my health and welfare taken care of. I never thought about that part about how you get the money. So the first little job we did, it took 6 weeks to get the money. So we didn't have any money. But somehow during that process, the wife was in touch with people in the church and different things, and they were bringing food. I had no clue. I'm busy building, but they were taking care of the local things, and it worked out. And all of a sudden, then the business started moving. Things started to happen. But again, it didn't happen because I planned it and was educated in business. I was barely educated in building, but was somewhat. And this thing took off and became today it's beyond my understanding, and always has been, but now it's way beyond my understanding. My youngest boy's running it, and I don't know, they're doing $40-50 million a year of business. We do hotels, wineries, caves. They have a cave business for the wineries, which is kind of a unique business. Metal buildings, doing groundwork, earthwork, all kinds of things. Got six, 7 companies now that he oversees. But anyway, it all started from that little urge of kicking a carpenter to kind of, let's move on here. We got things to do, and it's turned into a real blessing. Anyway, started to meet guys that were sharing their testimony in a thing at that time called Full Gospel Businessmen. And the first meeting I went to, I remember one guy, he was from Los Angeles, which was 400 miles south of us, but he came up and gave a story about how, well, this was part of that going into business, about how God had put him in business and made him successful. And then he was able to do all these things, give money and go around the world and talk about Jesus. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So it encouraged us somewhat as we went along that trail to get into business. And more stories. And I remember going back a little bit in 75, 76 in March, on my birthday in March, she bought me a membership in the Full Gospel Businessmen. You need this, boy, kind of thing. So I started hanging out with these guys, and several of the gentlemen were mentoring me into the into this world of walking with God and walking in business and walking as a father and a husband and all that. And it really, God was good. He just gave me some great guys that Ronnie Swenhart was one, Ray Larson was one. I mean, just some super people in my life that encouraged me and held me up and kind of kept me in the right direction. You know, in fact, when we decided, thought, okay, we should go in business, I asked three of the most conservative guys I knew whether we should do it, thinking that they probably would not. One was my pastor, one was the gentleman, Ray Larson, and one was my dad, thinking, okay, you've got a job, you've been with that company for, I don't know, 15 years or something. And I mean, those guys took really good care of me. And they had a lot of money, a lot of business. So I had a very successful place to be. And this jumping out into no man's land. But every one of them said, do it, which was kind of like a fleece, but it was incredible. I just, oh my goodness, yes, then let's do it. So off we went. I think it took that kind of encouragement to do it. I don't know that I had enough courage to jump out on my own at that time. But anyway, here we are. And then we start listening to stories, and then we start going out and going to other countries and other places. I remember in Mexico, well, first I went to Haiti and went to about a week there and saw some miraculous things. One of my first times I saw God do something. I don't want to say it's through me, but I was the only one with this kid. We were having a meeting in a village with a tin roof and banana leaf sides. I mean, that was it. There was no water, there was no electricity. We're in this village way out in the jungle. And there was probably, I don't know, 50, 60 people in the place. And it was pretty wild. Guys were giving their story and interpretation was going on. And you wonder how much is going to impact anybody, you know, because huge language difference. French Creole, I think, was the language. So anyway, they're getting all done. And all of a sudden now there's a movement for prayer. You know, people want prayer. Oh man, everybody wanted prayer. So we had a guy with us, two guys actually, that had a gift of healing. You know, I mean, these guys are special gifters. This is how you do it, right? So some little kid comes up to me. He's probably 6, 7 years old, pulling on me to go back to his grandfather, still sitting down back there. And I look at the grandfather. He don't look good. And the kid's pulling me, and I said, no, you go over there. This is where God's moving. You go over there. I'm nothing. I'm just learning how all this works. So he wouldn't let me go. So he finally drugged me over there, and I looked down at the guy's knee had like a grapefruit, a big pussy, messy looking thing. I mean, it was a tumor of something so ugly. I just couldn't. I just almost fainted looking at it. And so no, the guy says, you know, so the kid's giving me instructions here. So I just half closed my, put my hand down and go, Jesus. And this thing disappeared, flat out gone. I almost collapsed again. I was just shaking, you know.
LifeStories Live.